Hey guys, I am Game Advisor and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about why we think you guys should be excited to play Renown. In case you don't already know, Renown is a new survival game that will be coming out hopefully sometime this year, near the end of the year. However, they have said it could be pushed back significantly further. With all that being said, we have actually played the game and I really want to talk to you guys just about why I think you should at the very least look into it if you're into the survival game or medieval combat genre. For those of you who are looking at this game and happen to have played things like Chivalry or Chivalry 2 or really just any other medieval combat game, there's a good chance things will look somewhat familiar to you. If you don't already know the terminology, just know that there are things like drags and excels and parries, all of which change the way combat works, because if you haven't played those games, there's a good chance you're going to see this combat and think it looks really simplistic and easy to do, and there'll be very little, if not no, skill involved in actually getting kills. Well, first, let me just go ahead and clear that off the table for you, since this game will have a large amount of skill involved in the combat. Again, if you happen to have played medieval combat games, you know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't, just know that it can get extremely in-depth and it becomes a game of the mind a lot of times rather than a game of actual physical skill with moving your mouse. You kind of have to outsmart your opponent at the higher skill levels, but there is still a lot of skill involved, just like in a shooter game where you have to still be able to aim well. It is also worth mentioning before we go any further into the video that everything I am talking about is subject to change or may have already changed if you're watching this at a later date. With that being kept in mind, let's talk about what the actual survival-like mechanics are and what this game might feel like to players. If you happen to be an OG and played a game called Reign of Kings back in the day, which was one of the first big survival games to hit the Steam marketplace, then there's a good chance you're going to enjoy this if you enjoyed that. The whole game revolves around you going out and gathering resources just like you would in a game like Rust per se, but instead of just gathering those resources and then making guns and shooting each other, we're going to be having medieval combat, medieval raiding, and all sorts of different things that we can do with it. There'll be farming, I believe, involved, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. Do keep in mind that when they release this, it's probably going to be in early access, so there's a chance that some mechanics will be missing, but it seems like the devs really want to make sure that the game has a solid foundation before they release it to that early access state. This means that there's a good chance the game will have some imbalances at its launch, which is totally understandable, but just know the devs' goal at this point in time is to make it so that a poorly geared player who is extremely good at the game and can outsmart their opponent will most likely still be able to win against an extremely well-geared player. Again, there is a skill gap that has to be pretty dramatic for that to happen, but it's a big enough skill gap that it's possible to actually do. For an example here, let's say you have full plate armor and you're fighting someone with, say, just some cloth armor. That person with full plate is going to probably have some form of an advantage over you, obviously depending on weapon types, because they're shooting for some element of realism here, but we're not going to get into that. Just know that they're going to have an advantage if they have better gear, or you might have that advantage, and your skill will play a huge role as to who's going to win regardless, which is something I really like to hear. I know personally in survival games, it's not fun when you spawn in, somebody has all the gear they could possibly imagine already, and you go ahead and walk into that world and realize that you have nothing but a rock if you say you're playing Rust, or in this game maybe a stick or your fists, and you have to now take on this guy with full plate armor, and you don't even have a chance. So thankfully, because the devs are trying to close the gap between gear and skill and trying to create a nice balance, this shouldn't be too much of an issue. Next, let's talk about the base building, as it's going to play a huge role in the game. Again, this game is going to be very similar to Rust. I know I've said it a few times. I just want to really stress that, because the devs have even said they are basically just trying to build a medieval version of Rust with their own flavors, of course, and things like that built into it. Base building at this point seems like it's going to be fairly intricate. Like, you're going to be able to put up walls, put all sorts of different palisades and stuff around. I mean, it doesn't seem crazy in depth, but again, it's still not even early access, and this is just going off of what we can see. However, we do know that there will be multiple tiers of structures. This could take the form of something like thatch, wood, and stone, with stone being all the way at the top, or maybe brick or something like that being all the way at the top to give you the most powerful defense. Whereas something like thatch or wood might be able to even be broken into with, say, a powerful melee weapon, or enough of them to be able to do so. Again, I know I'm comparing it to Rust a lot, but just using that as an example, as a template here, think explosives and stuff type things in Rust would be your big catapults in this game, or your trebuchets and your battering rams, which you're going to have to break down those high tier structures made of stone or some other kind of high end material. However, of course, those are going to be significantly harder to craft. And with all that being said, and all this raiding going on, which is a whole nother thing, by the way, the idea is that the higher tier walls and protections someone has built for themselves, the more it's going to cost for you to raid them. With that being said, it is a full loot game, so that means if you die, you're losing all the loot you're carrying. And I don't believe, at least at this point in time, they're planning to put any form of skill tree or anything like that into the game. So if you die, again, I know I'm comparing it to Rust, but if you die in Rust, you lose everything just like you do here if they take over your base. With that being said, there is a planned raiding demo that is supposed to hit Steam sometime this year. Again, it could be pushed back, so I'm not promising anything. This is nothing like that. I just know that it's supposed to happen at some point this year, so do keep your eye out for that. You can check out their official Discord, which should give you all the information and updates on that kind of stuff if that's something you're personally interested in and you want to get your hands on this game first before you actually try and buy it. Now, another big issue that survival games tend to have is server population. If you look at games like Ark, Atlas, Last Oasis, all these games that are kind of MMO-y, where you've got these massive amount of players all sharing a bunch of tiny servers and you're able to hop between them, yeah, that's not going to be a thing here. The servers here will have 100 people being their max, at least that is their goal. They have said it could be a little bit lower, it could be a little bit higher. It just depends. Very similar to how Rust is. Rust can have up to 500 and even more on some servers nowadays, but again, this is going to be an early access. I'm sure they're planning on improving that down the line, but at this point they're planning on having it so that 100 people can be on any server at any given time. And that may not seem like a lot, but the maps are specifically designed to accommodate that player population size. And in case you don't realize this, there's probably going to be more than 100 people on that server, just not all of them will be online at the exact same time. This is the same exact way that Rust servers work. They are planning on possibly also doing a wipe rotation. It could be a month, it could be a few weeks, it could be multiple months, and honestly, they could not do one at all. But either way, for me personally, as someone who absolutely loves survival games, and someone who really wants a medieval combat survival game that's not just swing left, right, up or down and block left, right, up or down, I am so excited for this game. I cannot wait to see what else they're going to put into it. I hope you guys are at least interested in it, and if you are, I highly recommend you check out their official Discord. We will be reviewing the game when it comes out, so do feel free to subscribe if that's something you want to see. Thank you guys just so much for watching this video. I hope you're hyped for the game as much as I am, but remember, don't overhype it, because you can never live up to that hype expectation, at least not most of the time. But otherwise, I want to give a big shout out to our Platinum and above channel members, which include Jonathan S., Caustic FPV, and Jim Phillips. Thank you all just for watching this video. I'm Game Advisor, and I'll see you next time.